What is up, everybody? This is where stats meet instinct. I'm your host, Sam, aka Straight A's on Twitter. I'm excited to be back with you guys today. Today, we are going to spend an entire show on the one guy everybody is talking about with the A's, and that is Nick Kurtz. He has been a topic of conversation for the A's for multiple reasons, the biggest of which is that it was reported that the A's offered him a contract extension earlier today. And it was also reported that he's at least open to the idea of signing a contract extension with the A's. So super exciting news, super exciting player. On this show, we're going to dig into a couple things about Nick Kurtz. We are going to talk about what kind of player he is, what kind of approach he has at the plate, what makes him the player he is. And then we're going to talk about, is he going to be able to continue the success he had as a rookie? Because the success he had as a rookie is fairly historic. And to repeat that level of success is incredibly difficult. And there's some guys that are able to repeat that level of success. And we're going to talk about if Nick Kurtz is going to be one of those guys. I got some numbers for you guys that we will dig into a little bit on that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what the contract would mean for the A's. Obviously, they've signed other guys to extensions. We're going to talk about why this one might be a little different than that. And then we're also going to dig into where he should be hitting in the lineup, because this is something, up until the contract news, this is something I've seen everybody talking about on Twitter the last few days, because he's hit leadoff, I think, in 3 of his 4 spring training games, or at least 2 of his 3. So we're going to talk about where he should be hitting in the lineup, in my opinion. But to start with, Nick Kurtz, last year as a rookie, he hit 290, 36 home runs, had a 1,002 OPS, and he had an OPS plus of 173. Now, that is a historic season for a rookie. That is an incredible season. That's one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen. How does a guy like Nick Kurtz have his success? That's what we're going to dig into a little bit right now. We're going to dig into some good stuff, but I also want to start with maybe some of the hesitation with Nick Kurtz, maybe some of the downside with Nick Kurtz, because he does so many things well. I think we'll start there and we'll kind of move into the things he does a little bit better. So Nick Kurtz obviously hits for power. He hit 36 home runs last year. He hit 290. In terms of the underlying numbers from a power standpoint, they back those up. Like, he hit the ball as hard as anybody, as consistently as anybody. He hit the ball in the air as consistently as anybody. He did all those things exactly the underlying numbers are exactly what you would expect after watching him every single day from the power standpoint. But in terms of the batting average, it's a little different. He hit 290 last year. His expected batting average was 245. So a little bit lower. That's nothing I would consider concerning. But the other knock you hear on Kurtz is that he strikes out a lot. So when you look at Baseball Savant, it gives you a percentile ranking in terms of where they rank compared to other major league hitters. In terms of strikeout rate, he was in the 4th percentile, which obviously isn't great. But the other number that I think might worry some people is that he was in the 1st percentile for whiff rate, meaning that he swings and misses as much or more than anyone else in Major League Baseball. So there's a couple ways to look at that. I think a lot of people would look at that and say, okay, is he going to be able to hit for as high of an average next year, given that he swings and misses so much? Or is he just due for regression across the board? Like, can you be successful swinging and missing as much as Nick Kurtz does? So to answer that question, we have to look at a couple other things he does. So one thing Nick Kurtz does well is he doesn't really chase that much. Right? He's 22 years old, and he was in the 86th percentile in terms of chase rate, which means he's not really swinging at pitches outside the zone very often. He's not swinging at pitches outside the zone very often, but he's still swinging and missing a ton. So what that means is that he's swinging and missing at pitches inside the zone at a really, really high rate. And this has kind of been the book on Nick Kurtz. He swings and misses inside the zone a lot. So is that something he has to fix, right? Because on the surface, I would intuitively, I would assume a guy that swings and misses at pitches in the zone a lot is a guy that's not really going to be able to hit for a high average. And that's a guy that would be a candidate for regression at least. But the more you dig into the numbers, the better it gets. I promise you guys, by the end of this, you will be a lot less worried about Nick Kurtz than you are at this exact moment. So he doesn't chase. And when he makes contact, he tends to hit the ball in the air and hit the ball really, really hard. That means he's absolutely maximizing his contact, which is why he hits for so much power. It's why he hits for so many extra base hits. So he doesn't chase, and when he hits the ball, he hits it the best possible way you could hit a baseball, which is really hard in the air. So are there other hitters in Major League Baseball that have success this way? Are there guys that swing and miss a ton in the zone, don't really chase, and hit the ball in the air a ton? And what do those guys look like? So before I get to those guys like Nick Kurtz, what they basically rely on is pitchers making mistakes within the zone. If you execute 3 pitches exactly where you want to Nick Kurtz in the zone, you can get him out. The difficulty is he's not going to chase. So that makes it so that he gets himself into a lot of leverage counts. And in leverage counts, hitters are going to be able to do more damage. They're going to be able to swing at their pitch. And if you make a mistake within the zone, that ball gets hit. So if you execute 3 perfect pitches, you can get him out. You can get him out. And you just can't. And so the issue, though, is it's really hard to do that. It's really hard to do that. It's so difficult as a major league pitcher to be in this constraint of this guy's not going to chase, so I have to throw it in the zone, but I have to throw it in the right spot in the zone, or else he's going to do a ton of damage. It's not just going to be a single. It's going to be an extra base hit and probably a home run. So you might be able to get him out once. You might be able to get him out twice. But that third at-bat, if you make that mistake and he goes 1 for 3 with a home run, like that's an incredible ball game as a hitter. And the 4th at-bat, maybe he draws a walk. That's an incredible ball game as a hitter. And that's what Nick Kurtz did a lot last year. So again, are there other hitters that have success this way? So Nick Kurtz was in the 1st percentile in whiff rate. A guy who is in the 2nd percentile in whiff rate, meaning he swings and misses almost as much as anyone in baseball in the zone. Aaron Judge, major league leader in batting average last year, the best hitter in baseball. He has success the exact same way. Another guy, 4th percent in whiff rate in Major League Baseball. So very near the bottom in swing and miss. Shohei Ohtani, probably the second best, definitely the second best hitter in baseball. These 2 guys have success exactly the same way Nick Kurtz does. And that is that they don't chase. They do swing and miss a lot. But when they make contact, they absolutely crush the baseball in the air. And these are the 2 best hitters in baseball. So you might look at the 1st percentile in whiff rate for Nick Kurtz and say, hey, like that's something he needs to improve on. And like it would be great for him to improve on that. But at the same time, if he doesn't, he's going to be just fine. He still can be a top 5 hitter in baseball, no questions asked, if he swings and misses as much as he did last year. And I think it's going to improve a little bit. I mean, last year he was a rookie. I think the swing and miss was a little bit more early on in the season. Now he's always going to swing and miss to some degree. He's not going to go from the 1st percentile in whiff rate to the 60th percentile in whiff rate. That's not going to happen. But can he go from the 1st percentile to the 20th percentile? Like, yeah, I definitely think he can. And even if he doesn't, he is still going to be an absolutely elite hitter in this game. Another thing I hear with Nick Kurtz, and you kind of see it on a lot of like lists and rankings for first basemen, is they want to see more. They want to see a little bit bigger of a sample size. Like, yeah, 1 year is great, but that's a small sample size, and we want to see it again. I'm going to make this very clear. It is not too early to rank Nick Kurtz at the very top of first base rankings. This guy had a 173 OPS plus as a rookie. Now, I like OPS plus because it accounts for things like the ballpark you're playing in. It accounts for things like the run scoring area you're playing in. And so it's really easy to compare players from different eras. And it's also just easy to read too. 100 is average, below anything below 100. So if it's 95, it's 5% below average. If it's 105, it's 5% above average. So 173 OPS, he was 73% better than an average big league hitter last year as a rookie. I will read you the list of players with the highest OPS plus as rookies since 1900. And this is from a graphic I found from MLB Network. It's Nick Kurtz, Jose Abreu, who came over, I think, at the age of 27 and had been playing professionally in Cuba for a long time, World Baseball Classic, all kinds of stuff like that. He had a 173 as well. Aaron Judge at a 171. Mike Trout at a 168. Like, that's the top four. So you have one guy that was a professional for a long time before he got to Major League Baseball, or playing at the top international level for a long time before he got to Major League Baseball. And you have Judge and Trout, probably the best two players we have seen in the last 20 years, period. And if you want to go further down that list, you get to guys like Mark McGwire, Dick Allen, Fred Lynn, Albert Pujols, Mike Piazza. So there's only two real outcomes for guys that have this good of rookie years. And that is a star or a superstar. That's it. Like, this guy's going to be – his floor is an all-star first baseman that's going to hit for a ton of power. His ceiling is the best hitter in the game. Though that's the range of outcomes right here. You have to look – there's no one who's had as good of a year as Nick Kurtz and hasn't continued to be an incredible Major League Baseball player for a long, long time. Like I said, it's star and superstar. Those are the only two outcomes when a guy has this good of a rookie year. So you'll hear people say, like, I want to see more, I want to see more, and they'll rank him like fourth on first base list. Those people are not properly contextualizing the rookie year Nick Kurtz had. And there's probably a little bit of just bias because people don't watch the A's a ton, but it does not properly contextualize the year Nick Kurtz had. This guy is as safe of an extension candidate as there is. He would have to be a massive statistical outlier to not make almost any contract worth it for the A's from their standpoint, from the team standpoint. And I don't know about you guys. I don't think this guy's a statistical outlier in a negative way. I think this guy is everything his numbers say he is. And on top of that, the other point I'll add, none of these other guys on the OPS plus list did that the year after they graduated college, which is absolutely insane, and it is not talked about enough. It is not talked about enough by baseball media. What this guy did the year after college, so he basically jumped 5 levels. He went from college to low A to high A to double A to triple A to the big leagues. That's a 5-level jump. He skipped one of them in there, but that's a 5-level jump. The reason people don't do this is just because the pitching you're facing as you go up 5 levels gets so much better, and it usually takes guys a long time to adjust to 1 level or 2 levels, nonetheless 5. So guys that make the major leagues this early, usually you're happy if they have like a solid year. Like Cam Smith on the Astros, he did the same thing, and he was like a really solid major league player last year. And that's really good. That's like a special thing to be able to be a solid major league player. Nick Kurtz was a top 3 hitter in baseball from the time he arrived in MLB until the end of the season. Like, that is unheard of. He had maybe the best rookie year we have ever seen the year after he graduated from college. People don't talk about that. People don't talk about that. That is one of the most amazing things you will ever see. You could be an A's fan. You could be a baseball fan for the next 50 years, and you might never see somebody do this again, what he did last year. So in terms of an extension, like I put on Twitter, my price tag, like what I'd be comfortable with offering Nick Kurtz is whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. This is not going to be like the other extensions. The other extensions were awesome. Like, they're players that help out the A's. They signal a directional shift for the A's organization. This extension, if it happens, is not a directional shift. This is the biggest move the A's have ever made in my lifetime from a roster standpoint. It is signaling that not only are we locking up our guys, we are locking up our superstars, and we are locking them up early. And so is this extension going to happen? I don't know. I think there is enough smoke where there is a very good chance this happens, at least in the next couple of years. But usually you don't see like this much smoke if they're not in some sort of serious negotiations. And the fact that Kurtz would publicly say like he's open to it, he said the timing has to be right, but the fact that he would publicly say he's open to it, I think they are feeling like this is something that can happen. And if this happens, I'm telling you, man, like this is as big as the A's making the playoffs, like them signing a guy like this to a long-term extension. And the number is going to be big. I think the number is going to be bigger than a lot of fans expect. Like I've seen some things about offering it being about 150 million. I think we're talking about more than that by a decent amount. I don't know the exact figure it's going to be, obviously, because it's just tough to factor in when you're buying out arbitration. How many years are you buying out in free agency, all that stuff. But it's going to be a big number. But when that big number comes out, don't let it scare you, because this guy, there's two outcomes for this guy. He's either going to be a star or he's going to be a superstar. Either way, he's going to make this contract worth it. So I'm really hoping this gets done. If this gets done, like I said, that would be like making the playoffs. Like I would honestly view it a similar way to the A's making the playoffs this year, where like it is a massive accomplishment for the organization if they're able to do this. So I've talked a lot about Nick Kurtz. I've talked a lot about why he's good. He basically makes pitchers throw him strikes, and when he makes contact, it's a hard hit ball in the air, and there's a really good chance it's going to be a home run. This extension is one of those where there's not really a dollar figure that would scare me as a fan, and I hope the A's do what it takes to get it done, because this is a special player. This is a special player. The A's have had some first basemen that have been good. They've had Matt Olson's, but this would be the best player since this would be like a Jason Johnby, Mark McGwire level bat, where he is in the MVP discussion every single year he's in the big leagues. And that's just a different level of player that the A's have not had in a long time. So the next question here, and this one I find kind of funny. What do you do with a player like that? Do you hit him leadoff? Because the A's certainly seem to be, at the very least, experimenting with that, if not leaning towards that. So is that where he should be hitting? So to preface this conversation here, I think the batting order and the pitching rotation, the order of the pitching rotation, things like that are a little bit overblown. I don't think they're things to necessarily get super worked up over. Like if you're hitting like a guy like Kurtz 5th or 6th or back in the order, then okay, like I understand getting worked up over that. But there's been like this general freak out by A's fans of hitting him leadoff that I just think it's overblown. And it's not like one or two people. It's literally every comment you see on Twitter when they talk about the A's hitting leadoff, or when Kurtz hitting leadoff for the A's, is a general freak out about that. So my preference is that he hits second. Statistically, second is the best spot to put your most productive hitter, because it gives a balance of like getting the most at-bats with some RBI opportunities as well. If he's not going to hit second, honestly, leadoff and third to me are not that different. They're not that different because there's benefits to both of them. Now, let's talk about the benefits of the 3-hole, because the 3-hole is the spot that I think consensus, if you put together 50 A's fans and they all wrote their lineups, most of them, or the highest percentage of them, would put him hitting third. So this is traditionally where your best hitter hits, and they do get a few more RBI opportunities in the 3-hole. But one thing we need to factor in is you only have the lineup set up exactly how you want once a game, and that's in the first inning. After that, your 4-hitter can be leading off the next time. It just gets jumbled and all that. So you really have one at-bat in the 3-hole where you're going to get more where it's designed for the lineup to work how it's supposed to. Now, let's say in the first inning, let's say this year Nick Kurtz hits, and just for the sake of math, he hits 44 home runs, right? Let's say he averages 4 at-bats a game. Now, if he hits 44 home runs, let's say because he averages 4 at-bats a game, that means he hits 11 home runs in the first inning. Now, if he's in the 3-hole, you're probably going to get about 4 to 5 of those home runs with guys on base, either 1 or 2 guys on base. So let's say of those 5 at-bats, you get 4 2-run homers and 1 3-run homer. That's great. You're not going to get that in the leadoff spot. And those are extra runs that you're putting on the board for the team, which is great. And that's why most people want him to hit third. If you're hitting in the leadoff spot, those 11 home runs are solo home runs. So you are leaving some meat on the bone there. Now, one thing people don't mention is like even the 3-hitter, most of your home runs are solo home runs. So it's not like he's going to hit 20 more home runs with guys on base over the course of the year. Hitting in the 3-hole, it might be it'll probably be less than 10. It'll probably be less than 10. So you're adding, I don't know, 20 runs, something like that. And there's value to that. There's real value to that. I don't want to downplay that. But the leadoff hitter hits, on average in a major league season, they get about 30 more at-bats than the 3-hole hitter. So 30 at-bats, in some ways it doesn't sound like a ton, but that's like 8 games worth of at-bats. So you can get Nick Kurtz hitting in the leadoff spot 8 extra games worth of at-bats. And that's a lot of damage. And we also have to factor in when these at-bats are coming. Those extra 30 at-bats, they are typically coming when the lineup turns over for a 5th time. And that usually happens in the bottom of the 8th, the 9th, or in extra innings. So I don't know about you guys, but Nick Kurtz getting 30 more at-bats in late game situations over the course of the year, that sounds pretty good to me. Now, does it outweigh the home runs, the maybe 5 or 6 more home runs he'll hit with guys on base? I don't know, but I feel like it's a tough decision when you think about it that way. Because I want my best hitter up late in games, and he will. If you can tell me my best hitter will get up 30 times in the bottom of the 8th, the 9th, or in extra innings, I'm going to sign up for that. So again, the 2-hole kind of splits the difference here, and that's why, like from just a straight statistical standpoint, it's the best spot to hit guys. Because in the 3-hole, the other thing people don't tell you is you come up a ton, more than any other spot, I believe, with 2 outs and nobody on. And that's like the least productive time to hit. So the 2-hole kind of splits the difference there. Will he get more RBI opportunities in the 3-hole? Yes. But will he get more late inning at-bats in the leadoff spot? Yes. And it just depends on your preference there. For me, I don't think the difference between 1 and 3 is that big. I think there's huge advantages to both. So my whole point here is I want him to hit second, but freaking out over him hitting leadoff and saying that's absolutely the wrong thing versus hitting 3, that's absolutely the right thing, I don't really think there's a massive difference in those spots. I definitely don't want him hitting 4th because the further you move down the lineup, obviously the less at-bats you get over the course of the year. I am a fan of one of your best hitters hitting leadoff. I don't really want Jeff McNeil hitting leadoff just because I think he's their 6th best hitter. And do you want your 6th best hitter getting the most at-bats? Probably not. A guy who hasn't been – we'll back up a second. Let's say you are going to hit Nick Kurtz 3, which I'm fine with. I think there's plenty of advantages to that. I don't think that would be a bad decision at all to hit Nick Kurtz 3. Who are you going to hit leadoff? A guy that hasn't been talked about that I would want to hit leadoff if Nick Kurtz is hitting 3rd is Tyler Soderstrom. I don't know why he's not talked about in that way. It's usually Butler, McNeil, or Wilson that people want in the leadoff spot. And there's some validity to that. But I do think with Nick Kurtz, he does struggle against left-handed pitchers. I think I'm not worried about that, especially late in the year. He was hitting bombs against left-handed pitchers. But what hitting two lefties in a row does is it makes it really easy late in the game for the other team to make a decision to bring in their best lefty at that spot in the order. They know you're not going to pinch hit, and then they can, late in the game, give themselves the best chance to get through a tough part of the order. So I do think you want to go right, left, right, left. So if you're going to hit Nick Kurtz third, I would think you'd want a lefty hitting leadoff. And, like, dude, Tyler Soderstrom, if that's the guy that gets the most at-bats on the A's this year, like, I'm all good with that. He hits for a high average. He hits every single pitch. Like, he did well against breaking stuff, changeups, fastballs. He did well against all of it. He hits both righties and lefties well. I mean, he's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's faster than Jacob Wilson, and he's near as fast as Jeff McNeil. So, I mean, I don't see why that guy's not talked about as an option in the leadoff spot. And it's probably just because the A's haven't hit him there. But shoot, like, if you're going to split the difference and say, hey, we're going to get our second best hitter the most at-bats and we're going to get our best hitter in the RBI spot, I love that. I love that. So you could do something like go Soderstrom, Rooker, Kurtz, and then continue the right, left, Langoliers after that, McNeil, Wilson, Butler, and so forth. But he's a guy that hasn't hit leadoff really at all this year, or been talked about for hitting leadoff. And, like, shoot, for all the people saying they want Nick Kurtz to hit third, I would think that would be the guy to hit leadoff if you're going to hit Nick Kurtz third. If you are going to hit him second, which is my preference, then I would think you would want a right-hander leading off. Rooker seems like more of they're viewing him more as like the 3 or 4 hole hitter, which I kind of agree with. So that kind of leaves Langoliers and Wilson. Langoliers is a little bit lower on base percentage with big power. He's not a perfect leadoff hitter. He actually runs pretty well. He has 81st percentile sprint speed. So the A's let him off last year and he did pretty well. So there's that option. Wilson is interesting. I don't love a leadoff hitter that swings at a ton of first pitches, because what that tends to do is handcuff the second guy in the order a little bit and makes them take pitches to make up for the leadoff guy swinging and maybe getting out on the first pitch. So I don't think Wilson is the perfect fit for the leadoff spot, but he's who I would go with if you're going to hit Nick Kurtz second. If it allows you to hit Nick Kurtz second, and it's not like Wilson has to take a bunch of pitches over the course of the game. You just tell him, like, hey, take the first pitch of the game or whatever. And you don't even have to tell him that. I mean, shoot, like, if Nick Kurtz and Wilson make 2 outs on 2 pitches, I can live with that. So Wilson's a good option in the leadoff spot, not a great option. The A's don't really have any perfect options. Butler's the best option if he's hitting well, but obviously he has to show that he's back to what he was in 2024 to be in that spot. So the thing is with the A's, they don't really have any perfect leadoff hitters. They just don't. So throwing Kurtz in the leadoff spot isn't something that I'm, like, up in arms about. The other thing too, it's like, it's not like they don't have anyone to drive him in if they get on base. I mean, you have Soderstrom, Langoliers, Rooker, all these guys to drive him in if he gets on base. And the other thought is like, oh, you don't really want Wilson and McNeil up in RBI situations. Well, like, what RBI situations? 2 outs, runner on second? Because if that's the case, I probably want Wilson over just about anybody, because he's the most likely guy to get a knock and drive that guy in. Runner on third, less than 2 outs? Yeah, Wilson, McNeil, those are probably the 2 guys I would want the most, because you know they're going to put the ball in play. So, like, those guys in RBI situations doesn't scare me a ton. I mean, obviously what people are talking about is, hey, first and second, 1 out. You want a guy that can hit a 3-run homer. Those guys are less likely to hit a 3-run homer. I get that. But hitting them further down in the order, I just don't think that's a big deal if that's how the lineup shakes out. So, yeah, my whole point is with Kurtz, we just need to take a deep breath about him hitting in the leadoff spot. There are huge benefits to him hitting in the leadoff spot. There's huge benefits to him hitting in the 3-hole. And it seems like people look at the benefits of hitting in the 3-hole and kind of downplay or negate or ignore the benefits of hitting in the leadoff spot. Like, getting your best hitter the most at-bats is not the end of the world, especially when those extra at-bats are going to come late in games. So that's kind of what I think about the batting order. At the end of the day, if Nick Kurtz hits 1, 2, or 3, I'm going to be fine. However it shakes out behind that or in front of that, I'm pretty much going to be okay with that. It's not something I'm going to spend a ton of time on. But those are just my general thoughts on the batting order. But listen, this is a great day to be an A's fan. The A's are talking to the best player this team has had in maybe decades about a contract extension that would be unlike anything this team has ever done before. If he signs this is a franchise-altering move. This is a player that has two outcomes. It's a star or a superstar. So I'm excited. A's won their spring training game today. There's nothing but good vibes as A's fans right now. I'm excited for this season. But that'll wrap it up for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I am your host, Sam. You can find me on Twitter at Straight A's. I will be on, I think, every Tuesday and Friday moving forward. So if you like what you hear, if you want to hear more of what I have to say, I greatly appreciate that. This is where you can find me, guys, where stats meet instinct. Like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff, guys. Get the word out on what we're doing here, because A's fans need more podcasts. I'm a fan of a bunch of other teams. They have a bunch of other podcasts for other teams. The A's, we don't have a ton of them. So I'm excited about this. I listen to all the other shows. There's a lot of good stuff happening here, guys. So help us out, spread the word. That's what I got for you guys tonight. As always, go A's.